Hey friend, welcome back to Bible Tract Echoes. I'm Micah McCurry, your host. Thank you so much for joining me once again today. We've been talking this week about three of the gravest, most terrible spiritual mistakes you could possibly ever make. Yeah, again, we could make this list a mile long, but I've decided to focus in on these three. We spoke, I think it was on Tuesday, about ignoring God. What a sad thing it would be for the God of all eternity trying to get our attention and us to ignore him. We spoke on Wednesday about irritating God. I know I don't want to irritate God, and I'm sure you don't either, but I ask your friend to consider what you do in your life and how it could potentially irritate God. For instance, putting other gods higher than he is. There should be no pantheon of gods in our life. There should be no hierarchy. There should be God and God alone. He should be the only one on the throne. We should not have a myriad of others that interchange and take his place. Don't ignore God. Don't irritate God. And don't impede God. We spoke yesterday about Achan and the grave error he made. He stole a garment, some silver and gold from Jericho, some items that very specifically had been told to the people of Israel were off limits, hands off, don't mess with them. And because of it, just a few days later, weeks later, the children of Israel go to attack Ai, the next step in conquering Canaan. And what happens? God will not let them go forward until this sin, this mistake is dealt with. I think of Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. Impeding God and his work is a grave mistake. And how does it often happen? When we take our eyes off of God and put it on things that we place a higher priority on. It's not just about the personal consequences we face, but about the impact our actions will have on others and on God's kingdom. Achan's greed, his disobedience, caused a massive setback for an entire community, and 36 men died as a result. Think about this. If you were about to run a marathon, if you were going to strap up your running shoes, you're going to try to go run this long race. Maybe you've trained for it, maybe you haven't. I know I haven't been doing much training for marathons lately, but if you were, would you also find the heaviest backpack you could find and stuff it full of weights? Would you want to make your job more difficult? Unless you were trying to prove something, unless it was some special marathon race, I wouldn't. I won't want to be as light as possible. I would want to not impede my progress forward. So spiritually speaking, why would we want to impede God's will for our life? As we're called to lay aside every weight, we've got to realize that sin impedes our progress and hinders our effectiveness in God's work. Like Achan, when we allow sin to take root in our lives, even if you try to hide it, as he did in his tent, he tried to bury it in a place where no one would know about it, but God knew. When we do that, we not only harm ourselves, but also those around us and the work of the gospel. But that brings us to our final thought. This is not necessarily a spiritual mistake, though I guess you could categorize it that way. I just want to draw this theme to a close. I don't want you to ignore God. I don't want you to irritate God. I don't want you to impede God's work in your life. And so we arrive at a place where you may be, a place I've been before, stuck between what I want to do and what God wants me to do, a place of indecision. Let's consider a historical illustration of indecision. During the American Civil War, there was a general named George McClellan. McClellan was an incredibly talented military leader. He was known for his organizational skills, his ability to train soldiers. He was actually one of Lincoln's very first picks to lead the Union Army. However, despite his capabilities, well known though they were, he had a significant flaw. he was overly cautious and often failed to act decisively. In 1862, during the Peninsula Campaign, McClellan had an opportunity to capture the Confederate capital of Richmond and potentially end the war early. Despite, get this, he had superior numbers, well-planned strategy, McClellan hesitated and delayed his attacks. What did his fear, what did his cautiousness, his fear of failure, what did it cost them? Well, it impeded the Union Army's progress. It allowed the Confederates to regroup and fortify their defenses, and his lack of decisive action prolonged the war, leading to much more bloodshed and suffering. McClellan's story, by all accounts, a good man. It was Lincoln's first choice to lead the United Union armies. Think about what it cost. Think about what happened as a result of his indecisiveness. His indecisiveness impeded the Union Army's success, and our spiritual hesitation and disobedience to get back on track can result in us continuing to ignore, can result in us continuing to irritate, can result in us continuing to impede God's work in our lives and in the lives of others. You realize Achan cost him his life, his family's lives, but it cost the lives of 36 other men as well. In James chapter 4, verse 17, we are told, "Therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin." When we know what is right, we know, and the Bible tells us, it's very clear, but when we know what is right and fail to act, we impede God's work. We can also irritate God. But at the same time, maybe we're doing with our fingers stuck in our ears, going la, 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 ignoring God. We hinder the progress of his kingdom, the spread of the gospel, and just like Achan, just like McClellan, our actions, or should I say inactions, to bring ourselves back into fellowship with God, because God hasn't moved. We were the ones that ignored him. We were the ones that stepped away. We were the ones that are irritating and impeding. Our inaction can have far-reaching consequences and impacts. For a moment, I'd like you to reflect on what you've heard today. I'd encourage you to examine your own life. Are there areas where we are impeding God's work? Are there sins or weights, things that we know we should not be doing, or even things that we know we should be doing, that are holding us back from fully serving him? Friend, I tell you, today is the day to lay them aside. Yes, you've got to come repentant. You need to go to Jesus, go to God, and tell him, I'm sorry for this. You don't just say, I'm going to change today. I know I've been ignoring you. I know I've been irritating. I know I've been impeding. I know my actions have been hurting not just myself, but others. I'm going to change my ways. No, friend, honestly, if your heart does not burn with what you're doing wrong, then I question your attitude about it. Because I question myself sometimes. Because there are times when I can be so self-righteous. I'm doing what's right for me. Friend, this is no his truth and her truth. No, there is the truth. There's God's truth. And I wonder how often, for myself, how often I can be crossways with God. For the sake of those around you, yes, please consider getting right. But at the end of the day, instead of making a list of all the people that you are causing problems for by your spiritual mistakes, I would consider the fact that you are offending a holy God, while at the same time, your wife, your husband, your children will reap the consequences of your spiritual indecision in not moving forward to rebuild the fellowship that you should have with God. Oftentimes I've found, as of recent days, I lean more towards grace than truth. I lean towards a laissez-faire kind of everyone, let's just get along. But at the same time, I've found in recent days that sometimes the most gracious thing I can do is tell the truth. A problem procrastinated is a problem magnified, is a problem doubled. Today, maybe you need to realize that you are causing yourself and many people dear to you problems because you are not dealing with some spiritual mistakes. I'd much rather learn from these mistakes before they get so serious. Friend, if I can be a help to you, if I can give you an encouraging word, or maybe you like some counsel and you have, because I'm something of an unknown but known quantity, you'd like to reach out to me, I would direct you first to your pastor. If you have one, I'd encourage you to go to some biblical counselors. But if I can be a help to you, I'd love to. I have folks almost weekly contact me and say, I have this or this issue. I'd like some counsel, some Bible on this. And oftentimes people know the right answers, but they still need to hear it. And so if I can be that for you, I'd love to. I'll do my absolute best to respond to each and every one of you as quickly as possible. You can text me at 309-316-7240. I said that kind of fast, so let me give it to you one more time, a little slower. Text me at 309-316-7240. I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you have a question, a comment, a critique, if you're a long-time participant, a listener to this program, I'd love to know where you're listening from. If you're a donor to the Ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated, thank you so very much. Your gifts allow this ministry, by God's grace, to continue forward. And I can't tell you what it means to me. I'd ask you, if you're listening right now, to use gospel tracts. Just had the opportunity, a friend of mine invited me to go with him to a dirt track race over in Kankakee, about 45 minutes from where I live, and had a good time over there. I enjoy racing. I enjoy dirt track racing. He had come over and helped me on our house a little bit, and so I wanted to take care of the ticket cost and whatnot, and so walked up there, swiped the credit card and whatnot, and I slid across. It was a pleasure to meet you, Gospel Tract. It was a pleasure to meet you. Talked to the guy for just a moment. He remarked, I have one of those metal credit cards, they feel expensive, but they don't have any money on them, But he was remarking on that. We talked for about 30 seconds. I slid that gospel tract over, and my prayer is that he reads it. I don't know if he will or not, but I know there's a far better chance of him reading it now that he has it in his hand than when it was in my pocket. I'd encourage you, use gospel tracts. We'll talk to you next week. Looking forward to what God has for us in the future days of Bible Tracts Incorporated, Bible Tract Echoes. My name is Mike McCurry. Thank you so much for your listenership today. Have a great day for His glory, and we'll plan on talking to you soon. God bless.
Thank you for joining us today for Bible Tract Echoes, a ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. If you would like to receive a free sample booklet of all of our tracts, you can contact us by calling 309-828-6888. That's 309-828-6888. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 130, Dwight, Illinois 60420. A faster way to contact us is to go to our website at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. There you will find more information about our ministry and details on how you can support Bible Tracts Incorporated. Thanks for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you as you serve Him.